everyone. So in previous videos, I went over Sun Salutation A and Sun Salutation B. And those are the basic warm-ups that get the body moving, the foundations of any yoga practice. So if we do those two things, and then we do some finishing practices, some finishing postures, that makes a complete yogic practice that you can do at home. So today I'm going to go over those finishing postures. So in another video, I'm going to go over some standing postures, and those you can add before the finishing postures. But say you got a morning where you gotta, take care of the kids, you just don't have the mental energy. All you got in you is some Sun Sal A, some Sun Sal B, some finishing postures. It's all you got the mental time for. That's enough. You don't need to ask more of yourself. That's a complete practice. But if you got more, you can add the standing postures. So check back later, and I'll have another video about those. But for now, let's focus on those finishing postures so we can have a nice rounded practice with all the components of a complete yogic practice. So you did your 3 to 5 rounds of Sun Sal A, you did your 3 to 5 rounds of Sun Sal B, you're ready to cool down and prepare the body for its rest. So the first thing we do then is our back bends. So in any yogic practice, you need to pay attention to the spine. There's a saying that you're only as young as your spine is healthy. So we want to move the spine in all the directions. So if you notice during the Sun Salutations, we had forward flexion, and move the spine in all the directions back and forth. So we're going to move it in the other directions as well. So we begin our finishing postures with a back bend. And there are a number of options for our back bend, just like there were with our Sun Sal A and B. So come into the back, and say you just had a day, right? You had enough. One of the things you can do for your back bend is do a restorative back bend. And for that, you can use a yoga block, right? Looks like this. Or even a book, right? And so you're going to take your feet hip distance apart, coming right out, plant them. Hands come to the side, you lift up the hips, and you take this block. And there are 3 levels to a block, right? Level 1, level 2, and level 3, which means you mean it, right? So we're going to take it in a level 2. You place it under the flat part of your back. And then you're going to chillax. All right, this is a restorative back bend. And this is good if you've had some back issues and you don't want to strain the back, but rather you want to relax that SI joint and think about life a little bit, right? So this will be a more restorative posture. If this is too high and you're like, girl, I need to chillax some more, you take it down to level 1. And if you do have SI joint issues, you can even push on one hip and the other and try to reset that SI joint. Now, if you take it to level 3, it's going to be too high for most people. So I don't recommend level 3, janking it up there, right, into space. Right, it's a little too high for most people, so I don't recommend that. So that's the restorative option. Now for strengthening our back, you're going to come into your bridge position. So it comes right out, and the feet are closer to the glutes, and you'll know when it's right, because if it's too close, you're like, I can't lift. So hands come alongside, neck is neutral, and you want space here, so the neck is long. Pressing the hands and lift up the hips. That's step 1. If you're like, I got this, you can tuck the shoulders underneath, roll them underneath, clasp the hands, push the feet, and lift up a little higher. So you want the knees to come toward each other rather than splaying out. And if you're like, I don't know how to do this, then you do this torture device here, where you take the block, put it between your knees, and you squeeze as you lift to make sure that you're keeping those knees engaged. And the glutes are pushing towards your knees as you do this. And then you hold and breathe for 5 breaths. And then you gently roll down and you reset. Now we always do in our finishing at least 2 bridges because we gotta. We just always do. One's not enough, right? So we'll do our second. So we push and lift, and we hold. Now if you go in for your third bridge, you can also try wheel posture if that's something you practice. So if you are used to wheel, and that's the one like the kids do, right, when you're little, when you lift up back here. If you're not used to it, I recommend you try it with a yoga teacher rather than just trying it on your own all willy-nilly and busting your stuff up, all right? But it requires some tricep strength, so get working on your triceps, folks. Ow, ow. Okay. So you did your nice back bends, you breathed in them, you're strengthening your abs, you're strengthening your back, you're all happy about that. So that's number one for your finishing postures. Number two is an inversion. Now yogic people love to turn themselves upside down, and there's a reason for it. It has a number of benefits. So number one is it helps with blood circulation quite a bit. You know how old people get edema and they're all like, I can't feel my toes. Well, we don't want that anymore. So when we help invert ourselves, when we turn ourselves upside down, it helps get rid of those things. So the other thing it does is it helps with energy, and also helps us see the world a little different. It helps us with perspective, and it helps with core strength. So the number one, the queen and king of all inversions is simply, bam, legs up the wall. So if we place, you see I put my hands under my hips, that helps protect the low back. We want our neck nice and long when we do this. And at first, people who don't practice yoga feel super stupid when they do this, right? They're like, why am I doing this? But after a while, you're like, meh, who cares? I'm okay with it. Because it's healthy. And yeah, your toes will go a little numb. That's the circulation part. It's not going to kill you. They'll go unnumb. So you can also take your hips a little higher with the block or the book. You lift them up, place that there. That feels even nicer. This is the jam. If you don't believe me, give it a go. Okay? All right. And you hang out here for 10 breaths. You breathe in into your nose, your belly, thinking about life, right? Toe is nice and soft. That's option number one. Option number two is going to be shoulder stand. And this one you don't take if you have any neck injuries or any shoulder injuries or any messed up issues in that region, because you got to put your weight onto your shoulders. And so if you got anything going on up there, don't be putting your weight on that, right? Stick with number one. Legs up the wall, which again is the king and queen, so it's fine. So to start with your shoulder stand, number one is you want that neck nice and long and neutral. And once you go up, you don't look left and right, because you can jank your stuff up. So you're going to press, see where my hands are, right underneath my booty. I'm going to lift up my hips, going to keep lifting them, and then I'm going to put my hands on my low back. Lift all the way up. Hands go to that low back, and then I'm going to point my toes up. I'll keep my neck nice and long and neutral, and then I'm going to try to straighten out. And I know I'm straight when it becomes more difficult to do. I'm going to breathe here for about 10 breaths, hanging out, feeling kind of cool. Feel what it's like to see my feet on the ceiling. And then I'm going to come into plow. So I'm going to take one foot and the other over my head. Right, and I'm pushing the floor. Now if your feet don't actually meet the floor, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. A lot of people's hamstrings are not long enough to make that happen. For most of you, you're going to keep your hands on your back. If you're used to practicing this, you can clasp your hands, stretch them out longer, keep that spine engaged and pushing up. Another 10 breaths here. So And yoga history, this pose and the one following it are very good for the thyroid and for digestion. Probably because you're upside down. So in the next pose, we're going to move into what's called dead man's pose. So that means you drop your knees by your ear back, and you're like a pretzel person, all twisted up. And it's one of the most yogic postures because you look like a yogi doing it. And 10 breaths here. And now we're going to get out of this mess, and we have to do so carefully. So, we're going to use our hands as brakes to help us slowly and carefully roll down. When we get to the low back, our hands come right underneath the low back to help us protect that low back. But we slowly come all the way down. And then we rest. So we have a counter pose after this called fish pose, and this is going to help open the back. And there's a couple of ways to do this. So one is a restorative way. That's where we take our handy block or book. I'm going to lie on back to it, on it. So I'm going to put it right in the middle of the back, lay onto it, and open up the chest and the arms. Let the back expand. So whenever we do a yoga posture that sort of makes one thing really collapse in, we want to expand that part back out. So that's what fish pose does. So the other option is without the block. And for that, again, our hands are right underneath the low back. And then we're sitting back on the elbows, looking at our toes like we're on the beach. And then we're going to open up the chest. We'll begin sliding back, opening up the chest, opening up until the top of our head just touches the mat. It's a big chest opener, heart opener. We breathe here about 5 breaths. Inhale, head comes up first. Undo the arms from the body, and we roll onto the back. And then we're going to bring knees into the chest, give them a hug. So we did our back bend, our inversion, and now we do twists. So there's a number of different styles of twist, and the easiest is knees to chest, arms open to a T, legs come to one side, and we look to the opposite side. And in our twist, we want the body to be nice and heavy. So the shoulders will stay on the mat, on the ground, and the legs are very heavy to one side. So if both legs don't touch, you can put a block between the legs to help them be heavy. And then we inhale back to center. And then we exhale to the opposite side. And again, moving the block if you need it. So after the sun salutations, the body's really warm then because we're moving a lot. And so the heart rate increases during those movements. So during the finishing postures, we're slowing. So in the sun salutations, it's one breath, one movement, except for the down dogs. And in the finishing postures, you notice we hold the postures a lot longer, so we can slow the heart rate, slow the breathing. And that way we get the relaxation aspect of yoga. So we get the moving meditation part during the sun salutations. We get the relaxation and stress reduction during the finishing postures. Inhale back to center. So we had our twists, and now Shavasana. So Shavasana should never be skipped. It's the most important posture of any yoga practice. And in the United States, we always feel like, no, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for Shavasana. I'm too busy. And that means we need it the most. We need to stop. We need to rest. We need to do nothing. So every day, take a moment to lie there and force yourself, even if it's for 20 breaths, to do nothing. No movement of the body, no movement of anything. Just breathing and letting yourself be exactly who you are at that moment, without judgment, just accepting this is you, and you are perfectly fine as you are in this moment. You're perfectly fine. Okay, friends, give yourself a big stretch. And then we roll over onto the right side when we come out of Shavasana, because that's the side of rebirth, traditionally. And this is called seed pose. So it's like you're being reborn. And then we push ourselves up. Always have the head be the last thing to come up. And then we have our bit of meditation after our practice. So that can simply be breathing. Meditation doesn't have to be anything more than that. It can simply be a moment of a few breaths where you're consciously breathing in and breathing out. Consciously breathing in through the nose and then letting it go. And that's all you have to do. So now you know how to do a complete practice. Surya Namaskar A, Surya Namaskar B, back bends, inversions, twists, Shavasana, meditation. That's all you need to do. It seems much more complex than it is. So it's all a matter of tools that you can choose to use to make your life a little calmer, a little happier. So this is your life, and it's up to you. Thank you for watching. Namaste, friends.